stop right there. This is not exactly what I had in mind. But if you're interested in a modern-day Midas who promised to do the impossible by ending poverty in the Philippines, well, this man went the distance from his own battle against poverty to his success as a business magnate, as congressman and senator, towards his unsuccessful bid for the Philippine presidency in the May 2010 elections. This man, in spite of his abundant personal wealth, did not do it alone. Behind him was a formidable force in Philippine politics, as well as a number of former Arroyo allies that was bound to secure this man's bid for the presidency through a large representation from the local government to the national level, recognized as none other than the Nationalista Party, a force that would take the Philippine political landscape by storm.
After the Second World War, Senate President Manuel A. Roxas led the liberal wing of the Nationalista Party into its entry into the political arena as the Liberal Party of the Philippines, or Partido Liberal, on January 19, 1946. He would later become the first president of the Third Republic of the Philippines. His administration would mark the reconstruction of the nation after the war. Cities and towns were in ruins. Roads and bridges were unsuitable for transportation. Industries in the private sectors were closed down, and the educational system had been paralyzed due to the devastation of school buildings and facilities during the war. Within his tenure as president, Roxas received rehabilitation funds from the United States when he was forced to forfeit military bases, impose trade restrictions on Philippine entrepreneurs, and grant U.S. proprietors and investors with certain special privileges. With barely 2 years in office, President Roxas died on April 15, 1948, after delivering his speech in Clarkfield, Pampanga. His vice president, also his running mate in his bid for the presidency, Elpidio Quirino, assumed office 2 days later. In 1948, Quirino ran for president for the first time. It was not considered as a re-election, knowing that he only continued President Roxas' term. He would again represent the Liberal Party, although there was factionalism within the party during that time. The Liberal Party had 2 presidential bets in the elections. One faction was led by Senate President Jose Avellino, while the other by President Quirino. The Nationalista Party also vied for the presidency through former President Jose P. Laurel. In the same years, the next generation of prominent politicians also entered the political scene. Liberalists by the names of Emmanuel Pelaez, Diosdado Macapagal, and Ferdinand Marcos. By the time Quirino ended his second term, he would again seek for re-election against former Defense Secretary Ramon Magsaysay, who earlier bolted the Liberal Party to run for president under the banner of the Nationalista Party. Ramon Magsaysay would eventually win the elections and would later become known as the man of the masses. He secured his place in history as one of the most loved presidents of the Philippines, although his stay in office did not last long. 3 years into his presidency, Ramon Magsaysay died in a plane crash. Carlos P. Garcia, his vice president, would later assume office as the President of the Republic of the Philippines. 8 months after the death of President Magsaysay, Carlos P. Garcia ran for president with hopes of receiving a full term in office. In the same year, the Liberal Party National Council selected Diosdado Macapagal as their vice presidential candidate for the 1957 elections. Both Garcia and Macapagal would later make history, as they were both elected as president and vice president respectively. For the very first time in Philippine history, a president and vice president came from different political parties. Macapagal would later address his political party as a party capable of responding to the, quote, moral and economic challenges of our times, unquote. That same year, another prominent political figure from the Liberal Party would win a seat in the House of Representatives during the midterm elections. Ferdinand Marcos, also a member of the party, became the president of the Senate. History would repeat itself through Ferdinand Marcos. Since Ramon Magsaysay, Ferdinand Marcos would be the first Liberal Party member seeking the presidency under the Nacionalista Party banner. In the nationwide elections of 1965, Macapagal conceded defeat to the president-elect Ferdinand Marcos, leaving the Philippines the most progressive nation, second only to Japan in Asia. In 1967, Tarlac Governor Benigno Aquino Jr. was elected senator. He ran under the Liberal Party and would later become a renowned activist against the Marcos administration. In 1971, another historical event shocked the political landscape. Plaza Miranda was bombed during a Liberal Party proclamation rally. The following year, on September 21, Marcos declared martial law after an ambush on then Defense Secretary Enrile. Leaders of the opposition, including Senator Benigno Aquino Jr., were imprisoned. Within the next 14 years, there was no participation from the Liberal Party in any elections. 8 years after his imprisonment, Senator Aquino was exiled to the United States for medical treatment. On August 21, 1983, Senator Benigno Aquino Jr. was gunned down by an assassin upon landing at Manila International Airport. 2 years after the assassination, Senator Salonga returned from exile with a new vision and program of government for the Liberal Party. The party would later adopt it as its official ideology on October 5. On November 3, 1985, Ferdinand Marcos called for snap elections on US-based television broadcasts scheduled on February 19 of the following year. In the counting of votes in that election, there were discrepancies that led to a massive walkout of poll watchers during the official vote counting. From February 21 to 26, hundreds and thousands of people marched to EDSA and revolted against the administration, eventually overthrowing the dictator Ferdinand Marcos. After 21 years in office, Marcos and his family was exiled to Hawaii, and Corazon Aquino was named the new president of the Philippines through a peaceful people power revolution. After the May 11 elections of 1987, the Senate became a Liberal Party bastion under the leadership of Jovito Salonga, who was chosen as Senate President. He would later vote no to the Treaty of Friendship and Cooperation and Security, an agreement that would grant a new lease for the US bases. Thus, there would be an absence of foreign military for the first time in 400 years. As the presidency of Corazon Aquino ended, the Liberal Party would lose in the 1992 elections in spite of an exceptional performance from its elected officials since the restoration of democracy in 1986. The Liberal Party would then spearhead the founding of the Council of Asian Liberals and Democrats, an alliance of liberal and democratic parties across Asia.